success. Well, there we have it. All my hard work and Caleb's hard work paid off. Bring her out in the sunshine here, do a walk around, get a better look at her.
Very bright.
1988 Chevy k30 500. Actually, for reference point, everybody, a little known thing. Some of you square body guys out there might know this, but since this truck is in 1988, the new pickup line came out in '88, and they were referred to as C and K series, like the old trucks. So when they did that, 1-tons, Blazers, and Suburbans were still the old square body style until 1991. So they had two different sets of numbers. They changed or letters rather. They changed the old body style to RV instead of CK. So R is two-wheel drive and V is four-wheel drive. So this is a 1988 Chevy V3500 four-wheel drive dually dump truck. And this is a cabin chassis.
It's really hot out here.
All right, now the next step. Let's take her for a road drive. Get her exercised a little here. All right. There we go. Surprisingly, a carbureted rig running properly will start a lot quicker than that when it's warm. Throttle bodies always take just that brief moment, but throttle bodies do have the distinct advantage of always starting when it's like 30 below zero. You normally have to put the gas in a little bit, but they'll start and they'll stay running. Whereas my carbureteds, I love them, I really do, but you have to pump the gas a bunch of times. You start it, it's all, you pump the gas, you gotta let them run for about 15-20 minutes. And that, my opinion on the whole idling, now I know a lot of people out there are going to bash this and knock it and everything else, but idling is very important in old trucks. But an old truck, you start it up and you just take right off, you're liable to turn a rod bearing or do some other damage to the engine. An old vehicle, when it's like 30 below and we're out plowing in the middle of the night, you got to start that truck, and as I say, it'll start and stall a couple of times, and you got to get it warmed up and get it going before you even think about taking off. And with these old school 4-speeds, you got 80-90 gear oil in the transmission. That stuff is like molasses on a cold day. A lot of times you let the clutch out too quick, the truck is going to stall. So you have to slowly release the clutch after a minute or two and let the gear oil churn and get warmed up before you can even go anywhere. So that is my opinion on idling and so forth. It is necessary with an old vehicle. Now obviously these fuel-injected throttle body rigs don't need to idle quite as long, but all right, let's go.
Let's go.
Head down the road a little bit and make sure everything's working good. Brakes are right there. Yeah. We're gonna do another brake test before we go.
Oh, those brakes work good. Oh yeah, they're right there.
Pedal is wicked solid. Oh, that's nice. Oh, what a difference. Okay, anybody the other way?
We are good.
Good. All right, she's kind of loud and beastie. I think we got an exhaust that we got to address at some point. We're hauling ass now. High speed. At about 35 here. Well, 30. All right, let's slow her down a little. Alright, just a short hop today. I'm going to be doing some hand later today, and we need to have this truck ready to go. But we got to make sure everything's good before we do.
Yep. It is riding rough. The shocks aren't connected. Up into second gear. And down into third.
Look at that. No noise out of the rear end. Smells really good.
Yep. Yeah, this is a good.
Double clutch. Here we go. Oh yeah, it's good to go. Okay. Temperature is normal. And of course, there's a few other things we got to deal with. The voltmeter no longer works, and the oil pressure gauge no longer works. However, I know it has oil pressure. There's no rapping and knocking, and I checked the oil level prior. I did check all the fluids. Didn't show it in the video, but I checked the oil and the antifreeze and other fluids prior to firing it up, taking it for a test drive. It is pretty much due for an oil change, so it will be receiving one. And again, another important thing about that, I like to run a rig first, get it all warmed up. All the particles of dirt and metal filings and debris and whatever else that gets in the motor oil, it's very important to start your vehicle, drive it, get it up to operating temperature prior to changing the oil, because all that sediment, all those particles settle to the bottom, and if you just change your oil without warming it up, you're really not getting all that stuff out of the crankcase. So it's pretty important to do that. It's fall right now. Winter's going to be fast approaching. We're going to be plowing with this, so I'm going to opt to use a thinner oil, 10W30. That's another thing too. I do not advocate for the use of 5W30 in any old truck. Don't do it. 5W30 or anything below that is way too thin, and it's going to thin right out as soon as the rig warms up, and you're going to get valve tick, you're going to get noise, you're going to notice decrease in oil pressure. I have to say the only exception, if you've got a low mileage unit and you guys are up in Canada somewhere or Alaska and it's like 50 below, then 5W30 is perfectly fine for those conditions. But basically, the further south you go, the thicker your viscosity of your oil needs to be. For these square bodies, depending on the truck, depending on the mileage and the wear and usage, I'll either use a 10W30 or a 10W40 for the winter time. Some of them I may use that year-round. I do have my Suburban. I run Mobil 1 synthetic. I run 10W30 year-round with that. Some of my other trucks do use a little oil. They have some valve blow-by. They've got a couple of worn rings. Probably should rebuild them, but hey, I got 2 kids. I'm working on a budget here, guys. So as long as the motor keeps running good, it's not rapping and knocking, I just will run a 2050. And now the other important thing that I do, and again, this is not a company endorsement. I'm not endorsing any products or advertising for any companies. Just that as a disclaimer. But I do highly recommend, just from my own personal experience, not any endorsement of any kind, I recommend the Lucas oil products. I use the Lucas oil conditioner in every oil change. I substitute 1/4 of that for a quart of oil. So 4 quarts of oil and a quart of the Lucas. Some of my vehicles that have oil consumption issues, I use the Lucas Stop Leak. I also use the Lucas transmission stop slip in the automatics. And I use the Lucas gear oil, power steering stop leak and conditioner. I've used the Lucas products and I found them to be very good. But again, it's not an official endorsement or anything like that. It's just, I'm just telling you guys what I've used and what works for me with my vehicles. So I do find that to be quite helpful. I know there's some people out there that feel that it's, ooh, additives, it's just snake oil, stuff doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you, my sister had a Cavalier, 93, and it had a 3.1 V6 in it. Pretty snappy little car. Bought it for $300, did brake lines and stuff, did a little body work, whatever. She ran it for quite a while, like 5 years. Got to the point where it was burning a quart of oil a day. It was burning oil, it was leaking oil, it was a mess. I ran a thicker viscosity, started using 10W30 instead of the 5. Then we got up to 1040. I purchased a bottle of Lucas Stop Leak and put it in at every oil change and kept adding it. It cut the consumption more than half, by more than half. Where she was using a quart of oil every day to every other day, it cut it down to a quart of oil about once every other week. She'd have to put a quart of oil in. So again, that's an extreme case. The car was getting tired and she ran it as long as she could. But the point is that the products do work. And I know it from personal experience. Another good example, my 77 1-ton, the power steering fluid was leaking really bad. The gearbox was leaking. Middle of a snowstorm, I ran out of power steering. And of course, when you're running a plow and you're maneuvering in driveways, not having power steering, let's face it, it really sucks, okay? So I started just topping it off with regular power steering fluid that I had in the cab. Well, that was great, except for every single driveway, it was empty again. I'd use it, it would run out. Every single driveway, so pretty soon I ran out of power steering fluid. It was leaking out of the main seal in the steering gear box, which, not an impossible fix, but when it's in the middle of a snowstorm, I don't have time to run back to the shop and throw in a new gearbox seal. I gotta get these driveways done, so I purchased a bottle of the Lucas Stop Leak and Conditioner for power steering fluid. I installed the bottle, and guess what, folks? It cut consumption down. I put in one bottle at the beginning of a storm. I plowed all the storm long, and it didn't run out until the end of the storm. At the end of the storm, it did get low again and started squealing and protesting and started to let go. But it lasted pretty much the whole storm. So just a little personal testimony on the benefit of Lucas products. But again, not an official endorsement or anything like that. So anyways, I think we're going to probably wrap the video up here. We've got the truck successfully back on the road and running again. And the sun is out, and we have some second cut hay down, and we need to get going on that. So we'll keep working, getting stuff done. And until next time, hope everybody's having a great day, and we'll see you later.